New media is one of those terms like art that sort of defies description. Any description you come up with tends to be so broad that it ceases to be useful. Uh, I prefer to take it literally. New media, it's media that are new. So contrasting newspapers and even TV, old print media, with electronic media, social media.
I don't know, I think a lot of it has to do with just creative expression as well as like sharing your ideas with others, like brainstorming with other people to come up with good ideas and making a difference with them.
My understanding was pretty clear. I knew what I was going to be getting into. I knew it was going to be a lot of design concepts and visual concepts, and I thought that that was going to be something that I'd be into.
I would describe new media as the most effective way to deliver a message. It doesn't have to be necessarily as up to date as possible. I don't think that's what new media is. Like when you hear new media, you're like, oh, you gotta like incorporate Google Glasses or like whatever, all this newest technology. But stuff like that, it's sometimes not the best and most effective way to deliver to a target audience. So you really got to understand who you're trying to focus on and the subject that you're trying to promote.
New media comes down to art intersecting with technology, meaning that there are lots of different kinds of things that can be communicated through one application of new media.
I find new media is an approach to a solution to a problem because there's many different approaches with new media, and there's many different things you can do with that, and there's many different things that it means.
I don't feel like new media should even have a definition personally. Just because my answer today could be different than it was yesterday. It's supposed to be an ever-changing thing. So I don't like defining it because I feel like that gives it limits.
I think new media is a really democratizing set of techniques and tools, and I think it puts power back into the hands of everyday people, as opposed to people with lots of money or power or expertise or resources. It really levels the playing field, and I think that that's probably an incredibly critical thing right now, given that we're in a state of transition in the world where things are really shifting and changing. We're going to have to figure out how to get to lower energy states, how to deal with peak oil, how to deal with climate change, and a lot of our leaders are really missing a lot of opportunities to work on this at the top levels, but there's a tremendous amount of activity at the grassroots level. And if you put media tools and connection tools and social tools and maker tools in the hands of people who are really needing to make a change, then that kind of change can happen.
I think that in the new media department at the University of Maine, each faculty member has a different definition, and they're all valid in their own ways. But I also think that because of that, the student really has to take initiative and kind of chase down their own path through new media so that they can get out of it what they want.
I would tell someone who's coming into new media to stretch their minds a little bit and not put limits on themselves, because there's so much you can do and there's so much other people have to offer. So whether it's your own project or it's a group project, just don't be afraid to explore something you already haven't, or explore something you think might be interesting but were too scared to try it before.
Incoming freshmen should take more computer science than is required. Definitely learn how to program. Don't just do enough to pass the class. Really pick some project. It can be some little game or some kind of photo sharing thing. Grab the Twitter API and do something with that. Just learn a little bit of Python or Java or Objective-C and really get into the details of how programming works, because you can build anything with programming.
It's not really so much what you learn in the classroom, it's what sort of things can you learn and take away and use in real world scenarios.
We really have to reinvest as students what it is you really want and how you're going to get it. And now my students are building the kind of program they want. They're redesigning in my 206 class the new media website. Some of my students are doing the TEDx talk that my students are going to be joining into. students are building portals for making films and getting film sites. We have another project called Brave New Maine where students are actually reconstructing stories of like what Maine's going to be like in the future in a crowdsourcing way. Students are creating apps for rock climbing, or they're creating apps for getting rides to Sugarloaf. They're creating apps for regulating insulin in their bodies if they're diabetic. So they're actually applying their education to something that matters in their lives.
For me, it's all about connecting with the stories and the different ways that stories can be told through different types of technology. You know, there's the traditional film that now has translated into digital video, you know, where you've got almost complete control over the audience, you know, and what they see and what they hear. And then you've got other kinds of things that are more open for interpretation, you know, different kinds of things that you can do either in installations or in like video art, where the user can kind of pull the story out, you know, for themselves, and then different people can get different types of experiences.
I remember having a photography assignment where later on we would use Photoshop to really enhance those images, and like what once was a pretty beautiful flower became like a really beautiful flower because of something you could do that nature can't do. Like you made it even better than it is in its natural form, and I think that was really cool to be able to tweak something beyond what it even is.
But all those skills, whether it's 3D printing or After Effects, video editing, aren't going to matter as much as some major overriding themes you're going to come away with. And that's the sense that new media is a many-to-many activity that empowers normal people to change the world in some way. It could be crowdsourcing, where you take one problem, you break it down into a lot of bits, the way that Wikipedia crowdsources the idea of, human knowledge. It could be DIY, the ability to take something that used to have to engage entire, factories in China to manufacture, and now you got a 3D printer and you can do that yourself. You can mod it and print it out. So that idea of connecting people in a more equal and empowering way is something that I think is the bottom line that everyone will take away from every new media class.